For the first time in their 45-year history, the New York Mets are off to a 9-2 start. And for the first time in their history, they've won their first 4 series. But today, the perennial division champion Braves are in town. Mets and Braves are coming up from Shea. It's a cool, clear spring evening in Queens as the Mets continue their homestand. The fans flocking to Shea, seeing if the Mets can embellish their quick start at 9-2 to begin the season. At Shea Stadium in New York, the New York Mets play the Atlanta Braves. Available in high definition. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Shea Stadium in New York. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and yes, Keith Hernandez with you as the Mets open a 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves. First of 18 games between the Mets and the 14-time defending division champion Braves. Keith, how important is it for the Mets, who have been stomped on by the Braves year after year, to get off to a fast start against Atlanta this year?
Well, I think it's critical. It's important to set the tone in any season with any ball club, particularly this Brave club, who have dominated the Mets over the years. Now, it reminds me of '86. We walked into St. Louis in April, and we went in there and swept 4 games, Ronnie, and we were on our way. The sails were set. We were on our way.
Pedro Martinez tonight goes for a milestone. He tries for his 200th career win. There are only 7 other active pitchers who've gotten to 200 wins. Ronnie, how significant is this?
Well, it's really significant. And also, he's only lost 84 games. That winning percentage is off the charts. The thing I love about Pedro Martinez is that there's no better competitor in baseball. There's 4 or 5 outs you got to get during the course of the game. He recognizes those moments and usually always gets those outs.
Has a couple of wins already this year. 703 winning percentage lifetime, the best in history. Meanwhile, the Mets continue to score. 9 more runs yesterday, and Carlos Delgado has been a difference maker.
Well, he's the anchor in this lineup in my mind. A left-hand power hitter and an average hitter, clutch hitter. And yesterday here on the breaking ball, he just did not get it away enough, and boy, he was fooled at first and just hit a bullet down the line. That's what he brings to this lineup.
But the Mets are not only scoring with home runs.
Well, they're doing the little things, and this is called winning baseball. There's right there. Cliff Floyd advances him with less than 1 out. And lo and behold, Nady comes up, sacrifice fly. It's perfect baseball.
So the Mets averaging better than 6 runs per game to start the season. One of the reasons for their 9-2 start. And tonight they begin play against the Atlanta Braves. They'll play them 9 times in the next 3 weeks. We'll come back to Shea Stadium in just a moment, and when we do, we'll listen to Manny Acta, the Mets third base coach. He wore a microphone during spring training. That's coming up next. Back at Shea Stadium, where the Mets and Braves get set for a 3-game series. Manny Acta, the Mets third base coach. I think I said spring training. I was harkening back to warmer days. During batting practice today, Manny Acta was wearing a microphone for us, and we get to hear a little of what the pregame banter was all about.
Son, beautiful. Gap City. Heads up. No, 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 no. Boy, Ramon, what do you use the whole field? Oh my goodness. No, 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 no. Dígale que no esa pelota. Oh, stop it. Oh my goodness. Back, 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 back. Nice, Woody. Woody, don't believe me, but if we would have been in Japan, you'd been playing today, because I heard they make the lineup after BP over there. Let's go, let's go, let's go, Mets. Willow, let's go, let's go, let's go, Mets. Let's go, let's go. Tenía Willow cansado ayer. After the game, I was singing that song the whole day.
You get the feeling that Manny might have a future in broadcasting. Sounds like Andreas Cantor, the great soccer announcer. Coming up, the Mets and the Braves. First of 18 meetings this year. Pedro, next. Here at Shea Stadium, north wind blowing. Good for any pitcher, Ronnie.
I loved it when I got here.
Pedro Martinez trying to stay warm on not a cold but a cool night with that wind blowing in from left center field. As he takes on Pete Orr leading off for the Atlanta Braves. And it's ball one to Orr, who's playing third base. The Braves missing their left side of the infield. Chipper Jones on the disabled list. Edgar Renteria will probably miss about a week. And so Orr playing third base, and Martinez throws a strike. Pedro going after his third win in his third start of the year. 1-2 to Orr. Only twice in his career has Pedro won each of his first three starts. He did it in 1997, his last year with the Expos, and in 2000 with the Red Sox. Orr 3 for 14 to start the year, and he takes it wide, 2-2. Pedro's allowed just 7 hits over 13 innings to begin the year. Allowed just 3 hits in 7 innings against the Nationals in his last start Wednesday. 2-2 to Orr. Gets a piece of it and hangs in.
Well, Bobby Cox is going with a lot of left-handers in his lineup. Does not have a left-hander on his bench tonight. And Edgar Renteria, as you said, Gary, with the injury now, has forced him to play Orr and Betterment, who's a switch hitter and a left-hand hitter. So it's weakened the bench. And there's the fastball away. Had to reach for it.
Good pitch away. You say there's a lot of left-handers in the lineup for Atlanta. What does that mean? That Martinez is going to feature a lot of changeups. That's the pitch he'll use against those left-handed hitters.
That foul ball got a chunk of Paul LaDuca's left shoulder, and he's still just trying to shake it off. You mentioned the left-hand hitters, and it's one of the reasons the Mets made a roster move today. They called up Pedro Feliciano from Norfolk and sent Victor Diaz down, so the Mets now have an extra lefty in their bullpen. 2-2 to Orr, and he fouls that one away. Bobby Cox just 2 wins shy of 2,100 for his major league career. 7th on the all-time win list among managers. Pedro's 2-2, and he strikes Orr out swinging. LaDuca makes the toss to first on the pitch in the dirt, and Martinez fans the first man to face him.
Well, excellent play by Paul LaDuca.
Here's the Rico Braves lineup. Andrew Jones, 16 RBIs. Being asked to carry the batting order right now with Renteria unavailable and Chipper Jones on the disabled list. But the Braves have been scoring. They're averaging over 6 runs per game. And the I don't even know what to call it.
I like the cone heads better.
Well, first of all, they're not up to date with the hairstyle. That was last year's due.
That was Jerry Curl Pedro. No longer.
Here's Marcus Giles taking ball 1. Pedro.
That's interesting. I like that.
That's good. I like that very much. Marcus Giles off to a slow start, hitting just .204, but he has tormented the Mets over the last couple of years. 2-0 to Giles.
He's got a tender quadriceps, playing with the injury, playing through it.
He gets hurt a lot, and he plays hurt a lot. 3-0 to Giles.
Sombreros.
The compadres are here.
Hey, Pedro.
They're voting for Pedro. 3-1 the count to Giles.
Well, you talked about Giles playing hurt. One of the reasons that he's hurt a lot, see his numbers against Pedro Martinez, is that the way he plays. He's kind of, he steals a lot of bases. He breaks up double plays. He plays very hard.
And Pedro throws a fastball wide, and Giles draws a 1-out walk, and that's a strike call that Pedro thought he was going to get from Tim McClelland and did not. So 1 out and 1 on.
And the Mets Jeep defense sets up with LaDuca, Delgado, Hernandez, Reyes, Wright. The same cast of characters, except of course Beltran is hurt. We've got Andy Chavez in center field, and you see the 7 errors this season is the 5th fewest in the National League by a team.
Beltran missing his 2nd straight game with a tender right hamstring. Hopes to play tomorrow, but that's by no means guaranteed. Here's Ryan Langerhans, and he lines one over the head of Reyes. Base hit left center field. Giles will easily go to third as Chavez cuts it off, and the Braves have runners at the corners with 1 out. So after the walk to Giles, Langerhans' first pitch swinging.
Well, I love to see this kind of hitting right here. The ball's on the outside corner, up. got a little bit of the plate, Ron, and he went right with it over the shortstop's head in the left center field.
You're right, Keith. It caught a lot of the plate. I know when you play, though, your first time up, you very rarely swung at that first pitch, didn't you? Usually you wanted to try to garner what speed the pitcher was throwing.
I always wanted to see how fast he was. Hopefully I'd get a fastball. It was ball 1, then I can take the next one. He'd throw me a curveball and be ball 2. I'd be 2-0. I'd seen both his pitches. I'd be very happy.
Andrew Jones appeared bemused by the crowd's reaction. They booed him. They usually save that most vehement booing for Chipper Jones, but Chipper's not playing. And so Andrew caught it on the deflection.
We're going to boo at Jones tonight.
But they can't chant Larry at Andrew. Hasn't done much against Pedro in his career. 4 for 28. First and third and 1 out. And the curveball from Pedro flied to right. Tagging at third is Giles. Nady settling under it. Giles is coming. Here comes the throw by Nady to the plate. It's up the line, goes past LaDuca and past Pedro, and that allows Langerhans to go to second. And the Braves have a 1-0 lead on Andrew Jones's 17th run batted into the year.
Well, it's an error on Nady here. Now, with a runner on first base or any runner on base, you have to make sure you hit the cutoff man, and that is not even close. That is Sky King right there. And there you see Langerhans going halfway, as he should. He should get back a little sooner. He should be more in a position to tag up, because that's a routine fly ball in shallow right field.
So the sacrifice fly brings home a run. The error by Nady moves Langerhans to second, and now Adam LaRoche will be the batter. LaRoche hitting a .244. He has struck out 18 times in 45 at bats, but he has 3 home runs. And he takes a strike from Pedro. Martinez last year made 5 starts against the Braves. The first one was the most memorable. That was the first weekend of the season in Atlanta. He matched up against John Smoltz, and it was a classic. Not the least of which because the Mets had lost their first 5 games. Smoltz struck out 15 in the first 7 innings, but Carlos Beltran hit a home run against Smoltz in the 8th, and the Mets won the game, and Pedro got the Mets' first win.
And I remember that game. I think that Bobby Cox kept him in the game because he had a chance to break the strikeout record.
Smoltz left immediately after Beltran's home run, and then the Mets put up a big inning against the bullpen. And Pedro strikes out LaRoche to end the inning. So Pedro fans 2 in the opening inning, but the Braves put together a run. 1 hit, an error, and 1 left. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first. Mets baseball on Sportsnet New York is being brought to you by ChevyOffers.com, the presenting sponsor of Baseball Night in New York. By Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. And by Honda.com, see your Honda dealer and discover great values now being offered. And by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. Xavier Nady catching that fly ball hit by Andrew Jones and airmailing that throw home.
Well, one of the problems is that baseball teams now do not take infield, and this is what happens is you don't have a throw at all from right field to home plate until you're in the game, and that's the result.
Jorge Sosa on the mound for the Braves tonight. Had a breakthrough season last year, but off to a struggling start in 2006. 27-year-old right-hander from the Dominican Republic deals to Reyes. Ball 1.
Well, Sosa had a breakout season. Sorry, Gary. But sort of the same kind of season he had last year he's been having. Lots of base runners, just not making that pitch when he has to.
Too many walks.
2-0 to Reyes. He's already drawn 3 walks.
There's
far
Raj.
ahead of last year's pace. Roger McDowell, the new Braves pitching coach. Well acquainted with my booth mates. And it's 2-1 to Reyes.
I don't know about you, Keith. I always wanted to stay away from Roger during the course of a day. You never know what was going to happen.
I always liked being around Roger. It kept me loose.
Let's make sure he doesn't have a match in his hand. Reyes hitting 300, and he takes a strike from Sosa. 2-2.
Sosa's one of those guys that has great stuff. I was talking to Don Sutton, the Hall of Famer, does the TV for the Braves before the game. He says great fastball, great slider, but can throw 20 straight nasty pitches and throw 20 straight balls 9 miles out of the strike zone.
And Reyes strikes out on the breaking ball, and Sosa fans the first man to face him. So 1 out and nobody on. Here's the Mets lineup presented by Chevrolet. And we'll get it there eventually. There we go. Following Reyes, you got LaDuca, Delgado hitting third again with Beltran out of the lineup, and Xavier Nady continues to roll another home run yesterday and hitting .366. Here's LaDuca, who's now hitting .324 with a .410 on base percentage. Exactly what you'd like from your number 2 hitter, and he takes a strike.
Well, this is one of those games where you look in the box score in the paper before it starts, and you see Pedro 2-0 and Jorge Sosa 0-2 with an ERA over 11, and you go, my goodness, an easy day for the Mets.
And LaDuca hits one up the middle. Bateman can smother it, but can't make a play. And the Mets have a 1-out base runner, and Paul LaDuca notches an infield hit.
And the Braves' Ford defense that sets up with LaRoche, Giles, Bateman playing shortstop for the injured Renteria, Pete Orr at third, Langerhans, Jones, and Francoeur. And Francoeur, of course, with 13 assists last year, second to Cliff Floyd. Is the play by Bateman up the middle here. And this is not an infield hit. I'm sorry, Gary. I take offense here. That's a nice play by the defensive player that robbed you would hit up the middle.
But it wasn't going to be a double.
Well, it was a single. But an infield hit has a, you know,
like different connotation.
Like you're a ping hitter.
Point taken. Here's Carlos Delgado, fresh off his 3-run homer in yesterday's game, and he has had unbelievable numbers against Jorge Sosa. There you see it, 12 for 25 with 6 home runs. That is feasting.
Listen, if you're a pitcher and everything's hard, fastball, slider, you don't have anything to change up the pace of Delgado, you are going to get plastered.
On 0-1, Delgado grounds one wide of first, and LaRoche can't make the play. LaDuca will go on to third. Francoeur stumbles, drops the ball, but no impact on the play. What a comedy of errors, and the Mets wind up with first and third and 1 out.
Well, there's the play by LaRoche, and the ball just came up a little bit, didn't make the play. Also good hitting by Delgado. You got that hole, good spot to shoot for. Now Francoeur comes in rushing, bare hands, and fortunately for him, there was no damage done, no further damage.
LaRoche, a Gold Glove caliber first baseman, appeared to stumble going after it, and then Francoeur stumbled.
And of course, LaDuca, a very aggressive player. We like what we have seen from him so far this season.
They're going to call that an error on LaRoche. That's tough scoring right there.
That's a bad call there, because the error was that he was rushing in to get the ball. There was no play on LaDuca at third base. All he needed to do is make that play and throw it into second.
Here's David Wright taking low 1-0. No, they didn't call the error on Francoeur. They called it on LaRoche on the initial play.
That's
a terrible call.
Where's the home book?
That's not right. That has to be changed.
A home book you want to hit, right?
Absolutely.
David Wright hit 6 home runs against the Braves last year. Not quite Pat Burrell against the Mets, but getting close to it. First and third and 1 out. Mets trying to get even. 1-1 to David, who's hitting .429, second in the National League.
Well, both clubs have committed an error in the first inning here. David Wright in yet another RBI situation.
On 1-1, Wright hits a double play ball to second. Giles to Bateman and on to first, and the Mets are turned aside. So Sosa gets the big ground ball he needed. 4-6-3 double play. After 1 at Shea, 1-0 Atlanta. Pedro Martinez gets set to face the Braves in the top of the second inning. Atlanta took advantage of their opportunity, but the Mets could not take advantage of theirs as David Wright grounded into an inning-ending double play. As we go to the second, and Jeff Francoeur will lead off for the Braves. You know, we were talking about taking infield before, and it's something that you used to see before every game. After batting practice, everybody goes out there, and it's a defensive drill.
Well, absolutely. Ron made a very good point. And I want to add to that. I never took infield because infielders can do their work and throw to the bases for double plays, work on their throws. Outfielders take their outfield fly balls, but they can't throw home or to third or to second base because there's guys out there and they might hurt somebody.
Francoeur bunts one right back to Pedro, and throws him out easily for the first out.
Well, as a pitcher, thank you very much for that attempted bunt for an out. But also I want to add, it's a very windy night tonight. So wind does play a factor in an outfielder's throw. If you're out there throwing before the game in infield, you'll see, you know what, this is really moving my ball from left to right for the right-hander, Nady. You see that wind tonight. So that's another thing you can work on, especially for the outfielder before the game.
It's a pitcher's win tonight, but that was not a right fielder's win, as it turned out, for Xavier Nady. So 1 out and nobody on. And that was an odd move by Frank Kerr, trying to bunt his way on, because he's been hot with the bat the last few days. And Brian McCann takes low.
Well, he had the 1 3-for-3 day. 3 for 4. They thought he broke out, and he won a ball game with 1 hit. So I think he's still struggling.
McCann takes a strike. Brian McCann, now the #1 catcher with the Braves, one of the host of rookies last season for the Braves who helped carry them to a division title. Good changeup by Pedro, 1-2.
And you know, I was able, here's a changeup right here, the great changeup by Pedro, the good sinker right there. Starts out as a strike and dips out of the strike zone. This is a young Brave team. I watched them when I was in Florida on my week furlough, and happened to watch the 3 games they played, and they're young. A lot of 2-year players. This Met team is a veteran team.
We talk all the time about sophomore slump. Is it legit?
Yes, because sophomore slump is what it is. You're going into your 2nd year. Pitchers are now starting to understand, as far as players are concerned, what you like to hit, and you have to make the adjustments. If you don't, you end up in a sophomore slump.
And I think also too, when you're a rookie, there's no great expectations, and if you get in a role and you have a great season, now you have all winter to think about it, and the press and the media says, well, we expect this from young man who was a rookie last year. And there you look at Edgar Renneria and hitting coach Terry Pendleton. You're expected to do something your 2nd year, and if you get off to a slow start, and particularly if the club does too, that can spell a sophomore jinx.
2-2 to McCann. He lifts one to left. Wynn's going to blow it back toward the infield, and Floyd grabs it for the 2nd out. So 2 up and 2 set aside by Pedro, and Wilson Bedimit will come up. And you know, last year the Braves had to rely on younger players because, well, they had counted on veterans like Raul Mondesi to patrol their outfield, and he flamed out. Plus they had a lot of injuries, so they wound up playing a ton of rookies last year. Well, here they are early in the season, and already Chipper Jones is out, Edgar Renteria is out, and they've got younger players manning those positions again as Bedimit fouls one off.
Well, one thing that always happens, sorry Keith, is that in the winter they'll do projected numbers of what you did over 2 months, and you start reading all that stuff and you get off to a slow start. You know, Brian McCann's projected to hit 15 home runs. What if you don't have any by June? You start to press.
Good curveball by Pedro, 0-2.
I think another thing too, Gare, is when you're called up from the minor leagues, they're calling you up in a red hot streak, and you just carry it right in. Now you got to start the season from scratch.
0-2 to Bedimit, right down the middle, strike 3 call. Set him up with the curve, beat him with the fastball, and a terrific 1-2-3 inning for Pedro Martinez. The K's fly, 1-0 Atlanta. Before we go to the bottom of the 2nd, we have some sad notes to pass along. The Mets, the Wilpon and Katz families, and Sportsnet New York send their deepest condolences to the Madoff family. Roger Madoff, one of the Mets' biggest fans this weekend, lost a courageous battle with leukemia. The Madoff family has been instrumental in the Mets' partnership with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. April 3rd's Mets Welcome Home Dinner raised more than $600,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to fund groundbreaking cancer treatments and continue the foundation's relentless fight for a cure. To join the Mets on the team to fight leukemia and lymphoma, go to www.lls.org. Cliff Floyd leads off the home 2nd inning, and he takes a strike from Jorge Sosa.
It's been a little bit of a struggle so far for Cliff this season. You look at his numbers. Trying to shorten up his swing, extra BP, got his grandmother real angry at him. She's got better stuff than that.
Cliff pops one up. Bedimit, 1 away. So Floyd now hitless in his last 9 at bats. And he had the double and home run in Washington. Then he had the day off, and you wonder whether sometimes after you've had a big day, whether that day off.
Well, if you have a big day where you feel you made progress, you want to be in the lineup the next day, whether it's a lefty or a righty.
Absolutely. I think you know, whether that's continued the problems for Cliff Floyd, who knows, but anytime you have a big day, you want to be in there the next day.
Here's Xavier Nady, who keeps having big days, and he takes a strike. You know, Nady started out hot, then he went through a couple of days where things weren't going well, but on this homestand, he's hit a couple of home runs in the first 3 games. Hitting at .366, 5th in the National League.
And you know, Ronnie, I know you've noticed, is that the catchers, it's not even it's a given. They're setting up outside on him. He likes the outer half in, which is the outer 3/4 of the plate. I mean, inner, excuse me. Likes the ball middle in. I'd like to see him get a little closer to the plate.
And he gets one in the air to deep left field. Back goes Langerhans at the wall. It's out of here. Xavier Nady got all over an off-speed pitch. He hits his 3rd home run in 4 games on this homestand. His 4th home run of the year, and he ties the game at 1-1.
Well, one of the things we've seen about Xavier Nady already is he, like you said, Kate, he likes that ball in the middle in, and he also likes the ball up in the strike zone.
So Nady ties the game. Here's Andy Chavez playing for the injured Carlos Beltran. He takes ball 1.
Well, you kind of missed it there, but that was a hanging curveball up in the strike zone, as Ronnie said, and you just can't do that to a guy like Nady. He's very strong, very dangerous.
Chavez hits one on the ground. This time LaRoche comes up with it and makes the play at first base. That's the 2nd out.
Well, the pitch from Sosa was just a hanging slider. What do you call those, Keith?
Helicopter.
Helicopter.
Sikorsky.
This room service right here, just right up in the strike zone, and Nady just hits a moon ball to left field.
Well, he's been getting enough mistakes, that's for sure, because, you know, they want to work him away. We've talked about that since spring training, but they keep making mistakes to Nady, and he keeps hitting them out of the ballpark. There's Anderson Hernandez hitting at 158. Takes a strike. By the way, on the ball Delgado hit in the 1st inning, they have correctly changed that to a base hit.
I agree.
And that gives Delgado an 11-game hitting streak.
You're not going to get those on the road.
Bill Shannon, the official scorer tonight, and Bill generally gets them right.
Yes, he does.
So Delgado now has hit in 11 straight games, only failed on opening day to get a hit. That's the 1st home run, by the way, that Sosa's allowed this year. For all the troubles he's had, losing his first 2 games, he had kept the ball in the ballpark until Nady hit that 390-foot shot to tie the game.
He gave up 11 hits in his first 2 starts. He's only gone 6 1/3 in those 2 starts. And 6 walks, Ron. That's not going to cut it.
2 intentional, so all the base runners that Sosa has.
Or in foul ground near the tarp, can't get it. Now that wind really playing havoc with everything hitting the air right now, and Orr just couldn't track it.
Well, he checks out where the tarp is, and the wind just kind of blew it, and he got a glove on it. Just botched it, and as a hitter, you got new life.
They have not apparently charged an error on the play. One and 2 the count to Hernandez with 2 out. And Sosa bounces a slider 2-2. Anderson Hernandez continues to play fine defense, continues to struggle at the plate. Kaz Matsui played his first game at Norfolk AAA on rehab yesterday, and he gets closer and closer to a return to action.
Well, I think with this lineup, you can carry an Anderson Hernandez with his fine glove.
In the air to center. Andrew Jones barely moving. And the side retired. But the Mets get even in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Xavier Nady with his 4th home run of the year. That ties up the ball game 1-1 as we go to the 3rd inning at Shea Stadium. Hey, Mets fans always traveling and missing games. Watch Mets games live online whenever you're away from New York, exclusively from MLB.tv. Mets.com has more live games than anyone else. Mets.com, where baseball is always on. Mets knocking those home runs over the wall. Xavier Nady going deep to tie the game as we go to the 3rd, and the pitcher Jorge Sosa will lead off. Has a home run this season, and he takes a strike. So he had hit one more home run than he had given up coming into today's start.
He's a switch hitter,
but he's batting right against a right-hander.
To go figure.
Reyes retreating. Wind blowing it back, and Reyes stays with it. Well, that wind's going to make it adventurous all night long.
Let me tell you one thing, and Ron will attest to this. This wind tonight, nothing compared to Candlestick.
Oh,
not even close.
Now, did you play at Candlestick before they enclosed it?
No.
Because they say it was even worse then.
I would believe it.
Everything is an adventure in the air when it was that Candlestick. I mean, literally, as a pitcher, if anything was in the infield, it was your job to make sure you yelled someone's name because no one really wanted to catch one.
And you had tons of foul territory.
Here's Pete Orr taking inside.
And you mix in the hot dog wrappers, newspapers, everything else that used to blow across that
The
field.
dirt would blow in your eyes. Oh, it was awful.
Orr pulls one foul.
I'm telling you, I almost retired. I said, if I had to play there again, I quit.
Well, you have to respect people, played for years there. Willie Mays, the Willie McCoveys.
Yes. They played mainly day games back then.
Because the wind didn't start blowing until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 1-2 to Orr. Night games there. July. It's like Mark Twain said, coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
The 49ers play there. They get all the best weather in the winter. The wind dies in the winter there.
Well, they've done a great job with the new ballpark out there, and we'll be there next week. Orr fouls one away. Somehow they play in a ballpark sitting right on the water, and yet they've turned it and made the bowl in a way that the wind does not affect play nearly as much as it did at Candlestick.
Well, Keith knows better than I do, but the microclimates around the San Francisco area are just unbelievable. You can have it really cold at one spot and beautiful in another.
Pedro just missing with that curveball, and it's 2-2. Pedro's thrown more curves today than he has in any of his starts so far already.
I think he knows that he's got it working. Weather's not getting warmer, even though it's not real cold. The first start he had was just freezing.
But Ronnie, he's as good as anybody at figuring out what he's got and going with it.
Absolutely. In the bullpen, when he's throwing, he goes, you know what, I have a good curveball today. I will use that a lot more.
And Orr hanging tough. Pete Orr, no relation to the great hockey star Bobby Orr, although he wears his number and has the same middle name. Pete Gordon Orr. Gordon for his grandfather. So that's a coincidence. The number, though, is no coincidence.
There was also a great wide receiver under the Johnny Unitas Colts. Was it Jimmy Orr?
Jimmy Orr.
Jimmy Orr, sure.
Absolutely. Those are showing our age here.
Oh, strikes out. Well, Pedro gets Orr for the second time, his fourth strikeout of the night. It's that great Pedro Martinez changeup.
Well, Keith, you described it before. Set him up with fastballs and curveballs, and that changeup, the bottom is just dropping out of that ball.
Well, it's a ditto right here. He struck out Orr in the same pitch in the first inning, and it's like, okay, like Steve Carlton, if you just kept swinging at the bad pitch, he'd still throw it at you.
Giles hits it deep to right over Nady's head, bouncing up over the wall for a ground rule double. So Giles going after a first pitch fastball and going the other way, and he winds up on second base with the Braves' second hit of the game.
Well, both Langerhans and Giles, who have both hits, have hit him on fastballs on the first pitch for Martinez. So they're trying to hit that fastball so they don't get to the curve, and good changeup.
And both pitches up and out over the plate.
So Giles, who had been struggling, has now walked and doubled in his first two trips. And here's Langerhans, who had a base hit his first time up, snapping an 0 for 9. And Pedro starts him off with a changeup, 1-0. Langerhans playing every day now in left field. He shared that job last year. 2-0. And another rookie left-hand batting outfielder, Kelly Johnson, who's on the disabled list right now.
Now, if I'm Langerhans here with Andrew Jones hitting behind me, even though Pedro owns him, let me think I'd get a good pitch to hit here.
On 2-0, Pedro misses. It's 3-0.
Little helicopter run.
Yeah, interesting pitch selection by Pedro Martinez. I know Langerhans has gotten off to a quick start, but trying to throw a little breaking ball here that just spins and stays on the outside part.
So now it's 3-0 to Langerhans. First base is open, but you got Andrew Jones on deck, so this is not a pitch run by any means. 1-1 game. We're in the third. And Langerhans swinging 3-0, hits it to shallow left center. It'll fall in for a base hit. Giles comes home to score the lead run. Langerhans has his second hit, and it's 2-1 Atlanta. And was that a shock? Swinging 3-0 with Andrew Jones on deck.
Well, I think it's a credit to Bobby Cox here. He's got young hitters here and a veteran pitcher. 3-0, even though he didn't hit it great off the end of the bat. He figures it's going to be a fastball. Let my young hitters get a fastball to hit here. And it paid off.
Well, it did pay off in a very aggressive move by Bobby Cox, letting him swing there, but I would not have let him swing. I think I want Andrew Jones in an RBI situation all the time.
So here's Andrew, who drove in the first run with a sac fly, and he takes the cutter outside. Andrew now with 17 RBIs. That ties him for the National League lead.
He's had 4 for 28 lifetime against Pedro with no home runs.
51 home runs last year for Andrew Jones, and amazingly became the first Brave ever to hit 50 or more for a franchise that had the career home run leader in Henry Aaron and another great home run hitter in Eddie Matthews. Neither of them ever hit 50.
To me, that's amazing that Aaron, with 755 home runs, never hit the 50 plateau.
So Martinez for the second straight hitter behind. It's 2-0 to Andrew Jones. And he throws him a curveball for a strike. 2-0 curve from Pedro.
Well, you can see so far in this game that Pedro loves his breaking stuff, probably loves it more than his fastball right now, and is using it when he gets behind in the count.
Another curve hit to right. Goes the short way for the force play to end the inning. But the Braves get a 2-out run driven in by Langerhans. It's 2-1 Atlanta. New Yorkers love a good debate, and Daily News Live will be the place to find one. Gather around the table for fast-paced New York sports talk. Daily News Live weekdays at 5 p.m. on Sportsnet New York. We go to the bottom of the third inning. Pedro Martinez leads off against Jorge Sosa, who now has himself a 2-1 lead. Pedro 1 for 4 at the plate this year, and he's driven in a run. So there you see the career numbers for Martinez, who began his career in the National League with the Dodgers and the Expos before moving over to the Red Sox and taking a few years off from full-time hacking. Of course, Pedro, when he hits ground balls these days, does not run hard to first base because of the toe. 1-1 to Pedro. Sosa gets one over, 1-2. Jorge Sosa 13-3 last year with the Braves. And you see that famous shoe. Keeps the at bat alive.
Nueve Zapato. That new Nike shoe that's supposed to protect that foot, or at least try to protect it.
That spike moved to a slightly different spot, and gel packs surrounding that big right toe.
I never got treated that way.
Is your toe aching? Slap to second, and Pedro will merely jog down the line as Giles throws him out, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. Up to the top of the order for Jose Reyes. Bobby Cox has that unique ability to take off his hat and scratch his head with the same hand. You know how hard it is to do that?
Have you tried it?
Most people, if they take off their hat, they're going to scratch their head with their other hand. Bobby has a lot of unique qualities. One of them is as an incredible handler of men.
Well, he has the respect. That's the #1 word. He is the boss, and he's fair.
Reyes hits one high to center. Andrew Jones. Wind doesn't seem to bother him at all. 2 away.
Camp's under everything. Getting back to Bobby Cox, he just demands that you play the game right. If you hustle and you're on time, he'll treat you like a man, let you go out there and play. He's also a nice combination of this new era that everyone has tapes and computers and everyone's charted, but he also plays the game with a little feel as a manager, and it's nice to see that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Ron. There's so much statistics in today's games, too much statistics, and they don't really tell the true story. They're so cold. there's a gut in every player. You got to have a feel for them, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Loduca takes a strike. You know, Cox will change his lineup from day to day, change his batting order, not based on anything but gut instinct. And most managers want a set lineup every day, but not Bobby doesn't care because his players respect whatever he does.
Well, they pretty much have to, too, if you're a young kid coming up, and he's been the skipper there for how long? Over a decade. With all that success, and it reminds me of the time when he benched Andrew Jones early in his career. He didn't run out a fly ball. He dogged it. He pulled him right out of the game.
Yep, pulled Gil Hodges, and Loduca hits one right over the bag and down the line. Langerhans was playing over toward the gap. He's got a long run to get to it, and Loduca will cruise into second with a 2-out double. So Loduca continues to rake. He's 2 for 2.
Well, a hanging slider and his 4th double of the season. He kept his hands back, was a little fooled by the off speed of the slider. Kept his hands back and shoulder in. Nice hitting.
So the Braves were able to put together the go-ahead run after 2 out and nobody on when Giles doubled and Langerhans drove him in. Now a 2-out double by Loduca, and we'll see if Delgado, who has owned Jorge Sosa, can do the same. And see how carefully Sosa pitches to Delgado in this spot.
That was Bobby Cox right there, also maneuvering Betterman up the middle. You'll see the shift. He was positioning Betterman more on the other side, the right field side of second base.
Delgado had the base hit off LaRoche's glove his first trip. And takes a strike on the outside edge.
Well, we've seen the stats from our crack graphic guys. Obviously, Carlos Delgado knows how he hits off Jorge Sosa, but I'll tell you the #1 person in the ballpark that knows how Carlos Delgado hits off him is Jorge Sosa. That stays in your memory when someone owns you.
Really?
Oh, big time.
So the hitter has an edge.
The hitter has an edge in this situation. He doesn't have an edge, though, because first base is open.
Of course, most of that production against Sosa came when he was with Tampa Bay, and Delgado was with Toronto. 0-2 to Carlos, and you know Sosa's probably a better pitcher now than he was when he was with Tampa Bay.
Definitely a better pitcher. This is a better slider. He hung the one to Nady, he hung the one to Loduca. That one is a good one down.
And outside corner.
So now he has a 2-strike advantage on Delgado. Carlos with the base hit his first time up. Now it's hit in 11 straight games. On 0-2, Sosa misses high.
Well, Don Sutton also told me about Sosa is that he can get in trouble and then he pitches. He said, I'd like to get inside his mind and know when the bases are loaded. He's walked the ballpark and then he gets out of it. What's on his mind when he's in trouble? Because he didn't make his pitches. He's pitched out of so many jams.
Kind of like Brian Bannister yesterday.
So, good point.
1-2 to Delgado. And Carlos rockets one to deep right field. Forget that one. That is long gone. Delgado hits a 2-run homer. The Mets take the lead, and that's the 7th home run for Delgado in just 27 at-bats against Jorge Sosa. 3-2 New York. They want another curtain call from Carlos here at Shea. Took him a while before he emerged yesterday. He'll get around to it. And the fans are not relenting. Right hits one to left field. Playable for Langerhans. And the side retired. But Carlos Delgado gives the Mets their first lead of the game with his 5th home run, a 2-run shot off his cousin Jorge Sosa. It's 3-2 New York. They go to the 4th inning at Shea. The Mets in the lead for the first time. Pedro Martinez will face Adam LaRoche leading off in the 4th inning. Pedro bidding for his 200th career victory tonight, and he has the lead for the first time. And Carlos Delgado just owning Jorge Sosa. LaRoche pulls one foul, and that was an interesting inning on both sides. First, Bobby Cox had Langerhans swinging 3-0 with Andrew Jones on deck, and then you got first base open for the Mets. You got Delgado, who has hit Sosa so well at the plate. They go after him. He gets ahead of him, but makes a mistake.
Well, I think what happens with a lot of pitchers, as we see Pedro deliver this pitch, is that they think that if they just throw a breaking ball in a situation where the hitter's expecting a fastball, that's pitching around someone. It's not. It's pitches out of the strike zone or appearing to be in the strike zone that move out of the strike zone, trying to get Delgado to swing at a pitch that's not a strike.
And you notice in that sequence of pitches, the sliders that he threw prior were away. Now, he may have tried to do that again. Pitchers are more apt to make a mistake with their breaking ball than they are with their fastball.
2-1 to LaRoche. 2-2. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, Chris Cotter with you from Shea Stadium in New York. Mets and Braves for the opener of a 3-game series. First meeting of the year between the Mets and the Braves. And if the Mets are to win this game tonight, they would do something that has never been done in Major League history. They would have a 5-game lead in the first 12 games of the season. No team in Major League history has ever done that in any division, in any league. LaRoche hits one to left center. Andy Chavez circling in. One away. So 1 out and nobody on. Let's check out the dodge around the major leagues. Albert Pujols, is there a better hitter in baseball?
No.
3 home runs, including a walk-off shot in the 9th over the Reds. Barry Bonds continues to struggle. Just 1 RBI with those no home runs, and Josh Beckett won his 3rd yesterday. He's been dominant early on in his Red Sox career. 1-0 to Jeff Francoeur. Pujols is just incredible.
He's a better hitter than Tony Gwynn. That's saying a lot.
A whole lot more power.
Oh, that's exactly right. He is something.
And he's a right-hand hitter, which makes it tougher too. Francoeur hits it to right over toward the line. Nady won't get there, and Francoeur has a base hit. He's going to try for 2, and he'll make it. So Francoeur with his first double of the year, a little parachute into right, and the tying run aboard.
Well, we'll look at the pitch here. Slider up a little bit, but not a bad pitch. It's a flat slider, though, right, Ronnie?
It's a flat slider, and Francoeur, who's a very aggressive hitter, is one of the few hitters who would even swing at that pitch as it was going off the outside corner.
Especially on 2-0. But that's been the knock on Francoeur, that he'll swing at just about everything, and one of the reasons why you just didn't know what kind of sophomore year he was going to have.
I think he is one of those hitters that when he decides he's going to swing, he is swinging.
And you can
There's no check swing.
That pitch is off the plate. You see there it's outside around 3 inches.
0-1 to Brian McCann. Well, it's worked for Vladimir Guerrero just fine.
Well,
but there aren't too many like him. Yeah.
Worked for Manny Sanguillen pretty good too, right? All those bad ball hitters, Yogi Berra,
Roberto Clemente. McCann flying to left his first trip. 1-1 to McCann.
I tell you what, the lumber company, those old Pirates of '79. That was probably the finest lineup I ever seen in my career, and they did not know what it meant to take a pitch. They were up there hacking.
The opposite of today's thinking, right? Go up there and take a lot of pitches, see a lot of pitches.
McCann punches one foul, 1-2.
Gary, you made a good point saying that Pedro's going to some breaking stuff, throwing some curveballs. He's also employing his cutter a lot more today than he has all season long.
He's been mostly fastball changeup through his first 2 starts. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he had so little spring training.
He's starting to round into form.
Tying run at second with 1 out in a 3-2 game. McCann takes wide, 2-2. Pedro keeps blowing on that hand.
Well, not only cold weather will make the ball slick, but also this wind will really make it slick, and you're just trying to keep that moisture in your hand long enough so that when you grip the ball you have some kind of feel.
On 2-2, McCann grounds one to the right side. Hernandez runs it down and throws out McCann for the second out as Frank Kerr moves over to third. So 2 away. Let's check out our Aflac trivia question for tonight. When was the last time the Mets entered a series with the Braves with a better record than Atlanta after the first 10 games of the season?
I think it was after 2000. But I'm cheating. I looked. I know the answer.
The Mets will walk Wilson Betterman intentionally to get to Jorge Sosa. At least you admitted that you cheated.
He didn't want to. When he first said it, he wanted to own it.
What, you poke him in the ribs?
No.
So the Mets intentionally walking the 8-hitter, and we've seen a lot of this already early in the season. And here you're putting the go-ahead run on base, bringing the pitcher up, not having the pitcher lead off the next inning. And there's ball 4. Well, given that we already know that Keith knows the answer, we'll get right to the Aflac trivia answer. Last time the Mets entered a series with the Braves with a better record after the first 10 games of the season. There you go. It was after 2000. And that's the only time since 1994, when the Braves came into the National League East, that has happened before tonight. Which is amazing when you think about it. Here's Sosa, and Pedro throws a curveball outside because, you know, the Braves have not always gotten off to fast starts. In fact, 2 years ago they were way under 500 in the middle of June before cruising to another division title. Sosa chasing the high fastball, 1-1.
The old up the ladder here, but it's a pitcher hitting. But he's dangerous. He takes a pretty good swing there.
Already has a home run this year.
Although
Frank Kerr is at third, Batman at first.
Although he looks like he's from the school of swing hard in case you make contact.
Oh,
throw him the hammer. It's 1-2.
Oh, buckle my world.
Might need knee surgery after this move right here on a great curveball from Martinez.
Might need back surgery. See how he's been?
The old yellow hammer.
1-2 to Sosa. Pedro's already fanned 4. Runner goes, pitch high, no throw by LaDuca, so it's a free base for Betterman. And he'll get credit for a stolen base, his first of the year.
Well, a good jump here by Betterman, who's a very underrated player. Not even a cover there. There was already a play there. There was a runner who was going to steal. You have 3 plays there. The Mets have decided they weren't going to throw through.
Well, a base hit could give the Braves the lead. 2-2 to Sosa. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. So Pedro goes back to the curveball to strike out Sosa. 5 strikeouts for Martinez. A double and 2 left. We go to the bottom of the 4th. 3-2 New York. Sports Night, the news and information source for all New York area sports fans. Sports Night won't just report the news, it will break the news. 6 p.m., 10 p.m., and 1 a.m. every night, only on Sportsnet New York. I believe that gentleman did not get the memo about Willie Randolph's facial hair rules.
There's gold up in there mountains.
Met fans of all stripes. We go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Mets with a 3-2 lead. Home runs by Xavier Nady, a solo shot in the 2nd. Carlos Delgado, a 2-run homer in the 3rd off Jorge Sosa, have the Mets in front. And Cliff Floyd checks the swing and takes a strike.
Cliff's just pulling that front shoulder out. When we all slump, we get out in front. And as hard as we try to keep that shoulder in and stay back, it's just inexplicable how one day you can come to the park and it's there. And you can see Cliff very awkward there. You see him flying that shoulder out. It's just a slump with a capital S. Watch his front shoulder. Look at his fanny. He's just a little sticking out. He's just a little off balance, too quick. And we all go through it.
And he rips one to right. Francoeur watches it sail to the wall. Floyd on his way to second. Francoeur has a great arm, but he can't throw out Floyd, who has a leadoff double to start the bottom of the fourth inning.
Well, promising for Cliff here, but this ball's away outside, and see, he's still pulling. Now you want Cliff's a pull hitter, but to break out of a slump, you'd like to see him go up the middle a little more right now until he gets out. Look how far out in front he is as far as his bat contact in front of home plate. He's still out in front, but it's progress.
Floyd with his third double, his fourth extra base hit of the year, and here's Nady.
I think one of the reasons he hit that pitch, though, that was the third straight fastball from Sosa in the same area.
Nady homered his first time up, his fourth of the year, and he lines a base hit into right center field. Floyd had to hold up to make sure it wouldn't be caught, but he'll be waved around anyway as Francoeur will concede the run. It's an RBI single for Xavier Nady, and it's 4-2 New York. Well, we've talked so much about Nady needing to go away.
This is the ball right here that you can either go pull or go the other way with. And I love to see Nady do this more. And Floyd had to freeze there because it was a line drive, might have been caught by the second baseman. That is just impressive hitting by Nady.
But isn't that a great job? The runner on second base, Nady thinking about going to that right side and ends up getting a hit off it.
I wonder if Cliff's a little bit hurt there.
Grimacing a little bit in the dugout. Nady gets back. I mean, he had to do a couple of twists and turns there over near second base as he got started. Thing is, Nady hit that ball so hard that Francoeur had to play it deep enough that he had no shot to throw Cliff out anyway. And Chavez drops down a beauty of a bunt, or just barely gets him at first base. Chavez bunting for a hit, but he'll get credit for a sacrifice.
Well, nice idea by Chavez here. Orr just makes a very nice play. I almost wasn't sure whether that was a drag bunt. But a nice play by Orr.
You generally don't sacrifice with your seven hitter
to get to the eighth place hitter who's struggling, and if you're going to do that, you got to get it closer to the line, make that throw for Orr a little longer.
But clearly Chavez was trying to bunt for a hit there, and Cliff is definitely struggling with something.
And you, as a hitter, you thank the official scorer for that's a no at bat. That's not a 0 for 1.
Well, the scoring rules do say give the hitter the benefit of the doubt. So Bill Shannon did. And here's Sanderson Hernandez and takes ball one.
We're tough on Bill tonight, aren't we? Bill, we're
no,
okay.
I think he's doing a great job. He changed the call early that he was supposed to change. Well, the Mets tacking on a run here in the fourth, and they've been awfully good at that during this hot streak. Bedman moving into the bank at second, but Sosa just steps on.
Keith Hernandez has been struggling this year.
Keith, Hernandez
has been struggling this year. Tell me how hard it is, though, to bat in that eighth hole for a young guy. See a lot of breaking pitches because the pitcher's up behind you.
I couldn't agree with you more, Ron, and because it takes a lot of patience because they're going to pitch around you, and plus you got a young guy that's struggling, and he's handled it well. I'll tell you one thing for Anderson Hernandez that's impressed me is that he has not taken his hitting out onto the field and let it affect his defense.
Well, they've made it very clear to him that he's here to play defense and that any hitting is a bonus. Grounds it to the right side. And Giles throws him out. Now they're a two-way. Nady moves over to third. And so Pedro Martinez shedding the jacket. Mets have already come from behind twice in this game and now have a 4-2 lead. How does that work? Did you see that? A little hologram of Pedro in motion. I'll see that one again. And Pedro pops it up. LaRoche has it, and the inning is over, but the Mets add a run. Nady's RBI single, his second RBI of the day. 4-2.
I'm Matt Yaloff with a Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. It's Mariners and Red Sox and Mark Loretta in the bottom of the ninth off of Eddie Gardato. Sox take it 7-6 on Patriots Day. Back to Gary and the guys at the Shea.
I know that was always Keith's favorite game time, 11 o'clock in the morning. Patriots Day in Boston.
Oh, I was always asleep.
Jose Valentin takes over for the Mets in left field. We saw Cliff Floyd grimacing in the dugout, so he comes out of the game with an apparent injury, and we'll try and find out exactly what has befallen Cliff. But Valentin goes to left field. Pete Orr leads off in the 5th inning and takes inside. Now, the Mets made a player move today, sending Victor Diaz back to Norfolk and bringing up an extra pitcher, Pedro Feliciano, so that leaves the Mets a little shorthanded in terms of extra outfielders. 1-1 to Orr.
Boy, isn't that how it works, though? You send an outfielder down to get more at bats, and one of your own outfielders sustains a small injury, or whatever injury Cliff Floyd has sustained.
And Valentin's played 47 games in his career in the outfield, but he's been an infielder most of his career. 1-2 to Orr.
Well, it basically leaves Willie with only 3 guys on the bench. Beltran's not going to be able to get any action in with his hamstring. Probably might be able to pinch hit. I doubt if they don't hit on an emergency situation they would.
Leaves only Woodward, Franco, and the backup catcher Castro.
Only right-hand hitters.
1-2 to Orr, who has struck out each of his first 2 trips. Pedro's fanned 5 over the first 4 innings. Throwing a few more pitches than he'd like. 70 over the first 4. Orr pops it up. LaDuca coming back. The wind's going to take it toward the screen, but it stays in play. And Orr is retired. 1 away.
Well, usually when a pitcher drags his foot, this is Jorge Sosa. It's pretty standard. You push off that mound. You can see that protective like plastic on his shoe, and just drags it and brings it up out and away from his body. Pedro's different. He'll do the standard where he'll drag his toe. We'll get back to that later, I guess.
Ball 1 to Marcus Giles.
He'll drag his toe just like the standard other kind of pitchers, but then instead of clearing it, he bangs it on the ground one more time before releasing it.
You can just see how that would hurt.
Yes, agreed.
And how has he done that for all these years and not sustained even more damage?
Well over 2,500 innings. Just shows you how tough he is.
Giles rifles 1 to left, getting turned around Valentin, but he finds it and makes the play. Good recovery by Valentin. 2 away.
Thought that Giles hit that ball pretty good, but with that wind blowing in from left field, I think it just knocked it down.
You saw Giles glancing out there. He thought he had a home run. It is blowing a gale out there. It was not supposed to blow this hard today. They were saying 8 to 10 miles an hour. It's a lot more than that. Langerhans takes a strike. Of course, this is the windiest place in New York here at Shea Stadium.
Well, again, watch this. Just that bang. It feels like, God, you can just imagine what it must do to the top of his foot to do that time in, time again.
1-1 to Langerhans, who's 2 for 2. Hits it to shallow right. Nady got a late start in, has to dive, and he makes the catch. Xavier Nady with the catch. And Martinez has a 1-2-3 inning. Nady with a homer, a couple of RBIs, and a nice diving play for the 3rd out in the top of the 5th. 4-2 New York. Jorge Sosa takes the mound for the bottom of the 5th inning. He's had leads of 1-0 and 2-1, but Carlos Delgado, 7th home run in 27 career at bats against Sosa, gave the Mets the lead. They tacked on a run in the 4th, and now Reyes at the top of the batting order leads off the bottom of the 5th.
Jose down below 300. A little bit of a dry spell for him after that hot start.
Went just 2 for 11 in the series against Milwaukee. Thinks about a bunt, 1-0.
And you know, another ball game here at Shea. Another couple nice plays in the field by the Mets. They're just a well-rounded ball club.
2-0 to Reyes. Still trying to figure out what happened to Cliff Floyd. We've not yet heard any word, but the Mets already having Beltran out of the lineup. Now Floyd leaving the game, and Willie Randolph a little shorthanded as far as outfielders are concerned. 2-1 the count to Reyes. And the bullpen gets cranking for the Braves. Lefty Chuck James, a rookie. Very highly regarded prospect as a starting pitcher.
Yes.
Reyes fooled with a breaking ball, 2-2.
And that's what Jose has to do, is lay off the bad breaking ball. And that's a tough pitch to lay off. But Jose tends to get a little anxious. We've all swung at bad sliders in the dirt.
That breaking ball down, though, seems to be the one Achilles heel for Jose Reyes.
Sosa's kept his pitch count very low today. Still 2-2 to Reyes.
Well, he hasn't walked anybody. That's the one salvation, I guess, out of this start. 7 hits. Beautiful crowd.
So on Monday night at Shea, this is a very large gathering.
I'd pay to watch this team play.
3-2.
You pay to watch them play, but you also pay to, anytime Pedro takes the mound here, they absolutely bring a lot more excitement here to Shea Stadium.
Well, it's a milestone night, a potential one for Pedro, and fans love those. Chance to see Pedro's 200th win. 3-2 to Reyes, and he fouls it away. And so for the first time, Sosa being forced to work hard to a batter. He's thrown 7 pitches to Reyes.
And we were talking in between innings, the 3 of us, about a guy like Sosa. You can get deep in the count, make him throw 6, 7 pitches against you. He will make a couple mistakes.
Reyes takes a walk. Reyes has now walked in 3 consecutive games. And the Mets have the leadoff man on in the 5th as we check the Hyundai in-game box score. Another big game for Xavier Nady with 2 hits, including a home run. He's driven in a couple. So is Delgado, who now has an 11-game hitting streak. And Loduca has contributed a couple of hits as the Mets have put up 4 runs and 7 hits in the first 4+ innings against Jorge Sosa. Let's see if Reyes gets a read on Sosa, who is very easy to run on, the stats will tell you.
He has a decent move to first base. His problem, though, he doesn't change up his moves. He doesn't hold the ball long enough or go quickly to the plate. He's very slow to home plate.
Opponents have been successful in their last 19 stolen base attempts and 27 of their last 28 against Sosa. Loduca takes a strike.
And something that Loduca does so well, and why I like him hitting in that 2nd spot in the order. He's just such a disciplined hitter, a tough strikeout. Will take pitches and allow Jose to get the jump. Not afraid to get behind the count.
Loduca 2 for 2, a single and a double. Sosa almost found Reyes leading.
And it takes a player who's very unselfish to be able to play like that, and Loduca is that kind of player.
You also have to have confidence in your ability to hit with 2 strikes.
You got to be a veteran player. It's tough to put a rookie in that spot.
Not running. Now it's 0-2 to Loduca.
I mean, the 7th position in the lineup is very similar to the 8th because you got an 8th hitter behind you. And in '86, that's what made Ray Knight so valuable to our team. He was just a line drive hitter, tough strikeout, RBI bat. Not that he didn't have the power, but he was the ideal 7th hitter.
Now Sosa ahead in the count, 0-2 on Loduca. Toward the hole, base hit. And the Mets have the first 2 on here in the bottom of the 5th, and Loduca is 3 for 3.
And I've got to believe here, and this is nice hitting by Loduca. This is a fastball running in on his hands, belt high, and he got the head out enough and right in the hole. That was a good pitch, Ron.
It was a good pitch, sinker running in on Loduca's hands. And he does a good job keeping that head on the ball and also 2-strike hitting. Put the ball in play. You never know what could happen.
That's going to be all for Jorge Sosa. Bobby Cox making his way to the mound. He's going to bring the lefty Chuck James into the game. And Sosa heads off his 3rd straight disappointing start. So the rookie left-hander Chuck James will take over the pitching. Mets up 4-2 and looking for more in the 5th. Roger McDowell, the new pitching coach of the Braves, looking on. Another struggling start from Jorge Sosa, for a team that's accustomed to a lot of success in the pitching department, but not so far this year, as the rookie left-hander Chuck James misses high to Delgado.
Well, Chuck James is a bright prospect, moved straight up through the chain for the Atlanta Braves last season. Picture him as a starter someday, but they were short in that bullpen and needed to have him in the big leagues now.
Delgado tries to hold the swing. 1-1. Last time up in the third, Delgado did what he's become accustomed to doing against Jorge Sosa. Off that bottom panel of the scoreboard.
Well, Delgado thus far this season is just hitting .214, 3 for 14 against left-handers, but 5 RBIs.
And James finds the corner, 1-2. Delgado now with 5 home runs and 14 runs batted in. David Wright waiting on deck. Mets have the first 2 aboard here in the bottom of the 5th, looking to tack on, leading 4-2. 24-year-old Chuck James on the mound for the Braves. 2-2 to Delgado.
Nice try by James coming inside with a 1-2 fastball. Just missed. See the catcher set up in, have to reach in. That's not a bad try right there. That's where you got to pitch all good hitters, particularly ahead in the count.
Chuck James, another one of these young Atlanta players who grew up in the Atlanta area. On 2-2, Delgado swings and misses, and James comes in to strike out Delgado. That's the first out of the inning.
Well, he went up the ladder. No, it's a hanging slider. Or is it?
I think it's a fastball up and in. Went back up inside till Delgado throws it by him.
And you saw the catcher setting up away. That's not where he wanted to throw it. So,
you know, we were talking about Bobby Cox earlier today. Jorge Sosa had not shown him anything that he was going to be able to last late into this game. Starts the inning. Sosa starts the inning. He has Chuck James warming up with him just in case he got to Delgado and had him ready.
Here's David Wright, who's 0 for 2, and he takes a breaking ball strike. Wright has bounced into a double play and fly to left.
Well, this is the beauty of the Met lineup, the balance, the left, right. You bring in a left-hander to face Delgado. You got a right-hand hitter and right behind him that wears out lefties.
1-1 to Wright. The word on Cliff Floyd is that Cliff suffered a strained rib cage muscle. Now, we didn't see it in his swing. We saw him grimacing when he ran home. So I'm wondering when he might have hurt it. Benjamin to his right, bobbles briefly. Giles with a relay, not in time. Little bobble at the beginning cost the Braves the shot at the double play and keeps the inning alive for New York.
Well, nice play by Benjamin. Look, he gets in front, the ball in the hole, and he gets in front with his body, uses 2 hands, and the ball takes an up hop. He keeps it in front. Nice recovery. That's the proper way to field. If you backhand, that ball comes out, it's in left field.
That was not an easy play because it did come up, and if he, like you said, if he hadn't played that in front of his body, he wouldn't have gotten any outs.
So now Jose Valentin, who came on for Floyd when Cliff left the game, still looking for his first hit as a Met. He's gone 0 for 7. First and third and 2 out. And James throws a strike. And wouldn't you know it, for Floyd, he finally got himself going with a 2-base hit. Gets himself hurt, and he's back in the trainer's room. Valentin fouls it off, and James ahead 0-2.
Well, here's
the swing.
Sorry there, Gare. He had to reach for it a little bit. Maybe he did it there, but a lot of times you don't feel those things after you get out of the box.
Let me ask you, though, that injury is a very tough injury for a hitter.
I never had a rib cage problem, fortunately.
1-2 to Valentin. Well, right now, Edgar Renteria is sitting out for the Braves with that same injury. He hurt it in the spring and then hurt it again on Saturday.
A lot of oblique injuries now that are the big vogue and in vogue, where guys are their obliques in their side muscles in their stomachs.
On 1-2, Valentin pops it up. Giles out, Francoeur in, battling the wind, and Francoeur gets to it in foul ground, and so Valentin continues to struggle, and a great job by Chuck James. Pedro Martinez goes back to the mound as we go to the 6th at Shea, 4-2. The old Pepsi Party Patrol on the loose here at Shea. Want a souvenir? Mr. Met getting into the act.
Oh my goodness.
It's a cool night at Shea Stadium. Wind blowing in, a pitcher's wind, and the pitcher on the mound has the lead. Pedro Martinez bidding for his 200th career victory as he takes on Andrew Jones.
81 pitches through 5. Ron, that's a little over 16 per inning. Is that good or average?
It's a little more than average, of course, but hopefully I think Willie Randolph would like to see Pedro get through the 7th. He gives them 7 strong innings. That puts them right where they want to be as far as their bullpen is concerned, with Sanchez having those 2 days off.
Pedro threw 86 pitches in his last start against the Nationals. That got him through 7, and he misses with the curveball 2-1.
You as a pitcher, how many pitches would you want to throw per inning?
I'm 12.
Okay.
I'm going to go more than 12.
And Andrew loses one. Against the wind, he cranks one that goes over the bleachers in left field. That is an enormous home run on any other day, but today, with that wind blowing in from left field, that is an absolute bomb. 5th home run of the year for Andrew Jones, and that cuts the Mets lead to 4-3.
Andrew's first career home run off of Pedro Martinez. Look at this. Look at the balance, the hanging slider. That is just a beautiful swing. With the big stride he has and that stiff front leg.
Alan LaRoche breaks his bat and fouls it off. Chunk of the bat winding up near first base.
Well, that's one of the cases with Andrew Jones that Pedro might have went to the well once too often with this curveball. Got him out the last at bat with 2 curveballs with a ground ball to third base. Went back to it again, but this one wasn't as sharp. And you're right, Gary. That might have been in the parking lot if the wind wasn't blowing in.
Might have knocked down that party tent.
That is just a power swing right there.
51 home runs last year for Andrew, and he now has 5 homers and 18 RBIs, so he takes over the National League lead in RBIs with that one. And LaRoche takes a strike 0-2. Let's check in with Chris Cotter.
Hitting a home run against Pedro before, and he's only faced 3 pitchers more without hitting a home run, batting .143 career against Pedro. So unlike Delgado against Sosa, Andrew had really struggled and broke out in a big way with that blast.
And Pedro strikes out LaRoche with the breaking ball, and LaDuca makes the throw to complete the putout. 6 strikeouts now for Martinez. So he comes back from the home run to strike out LaRoche. This is now a 1-run ball game, 4-3 New York.
And that's a pitch right there, Ronnie, we haven't seen for a few innings. He hasn't gotten away from his changeup.
He has. He really, to Pete Orr, he's been able to get him, strike him out twice in the changeup. And this one is well placed to get ahead in the count. Don't give a hitter anything he can hit out of the strike zone.
Frank Kerr takes one wide. Frank Kerr went out of the strike zone to double to right field in the 4th inning. I wonder how many strikes he's going to see this year. Pedro going up the ladder, 1-1.
I never had a good changeup, but I used to throw a split finger pitch, and I would use it kind of in the same way. Throw strikes, and if I got ahead, I would try to bounce it. I was lucky that Gary Carter was one of the best at blocking balls in the dirt.
You had a good split finger. That was one of your main weapons.
It became my main weapon because I never could develop a proper changeup. Could never throw it.
That was your 2nd pitch. Your curve was your 3rd pitch.
Curve was the 3rd pitch.
1-2 to Frank Kerr. Pedro just throwing fastballs to Frank Kerr, 1-2. Well, we're not going to see John Smoltz in this series, but Smoltz offered a shutout the other night for the Braves. And he's a guy who for years has relied on a split-fingered fastball.
And he's gotten away from it. He said he's not throwing that anymore. It affected his elbow, his forearm. He's throwing a changeup. Ron, explain that.
Anytime you throw a split finger, if you're at home, you just split your 2 fingers, you'll feel the tension right on the top of your forearm. And the more you throw those, the more it really taps the muscle in that forearm.
On 1-2, Frank Kerr fouls it off. Now, you threw a lot of splits in your career. Did you find that it built up a problem in your elbow over time?
I'll tell you what it did. I threw a lot of splits, and it did tighten up that form, and I lost some of the zip on my fastball because I became so muscular in there.
And Francoeur chases the cutter out of the strike zone, and there's the 7th strikeout for Pedro Martinez.
Well, it's a good slider, little cutter right here. Away, starts in the outside corner and breaks out of the strike zone. Tough pitch to lay off.
But very smart by Pedro. The last time he threw that cutter on the outside part, Francoeur hit it to right field off the end of the bat. He said, let me move it out another 3 inches.
In 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. And there you see the total for this year with Pedro's 7 tonight. It's the most strikeouts he's had in a game in his first 3 starts this year. 2-0 to Brian McCann. So Pedro bouncing back from the home run to strike out the next 2 hitters. McCann 0 for 2 on the night. And he pops this one up. Chavez drifting in. And so Martinez gets the next 3 after the Andrew Jones home run makes it a 1-run ball game. The K's starting to accumulate for Pedro. It's 4-3 New York. During the 2006 season, the Mets half of the 6th inning during home games on Sportsnet New York will be the Mets home run inning presented by Amtrak Acela Express. Stay tuned to SNY or visit SNY.TV for more details. Chuck James did a great job to get the Braves out of trouble in the 5th inning. Came in with 1st and 2nd and nobody out and retired the 3, 4, and 5 hitters. Now Xavier Nady, who's driven in 2 of the 4 Met runs with a home run and a single. And James throws a strike.
You can see how far Nady stands away from the plate. And just watch the catcher. It's a no-brainer here. They're just going to set up outside. He's way off that plate.
Went the other way as last time. Fouls that one off 0-2. Pedro Martinez 100 pitches through 6 innings. Let's start getting the bullpen cranking with Juan Sanchez up. Now Pedro's due to bat 4th in this inning. So you wonder what Willie has in mind.
Well, I think if you've got ducks on the pond, you're going to pinch hit for him.
Up the middle, base hit. And Nady's 3 for 3. Well, they got 1 duck.
Well, wants the ball away. Look at the catcher's glove. Inner half of the plate, and that's where, and then up, and look at Nady just launch. Nice swing.
Well, you'll know exactly what Willie has in mind here by what Chavez does. If Chavez is sacrificing, that means he's going to bat for Pedro.
Well, he's going to sacrifice lefty-lefty here. It's no doubt. In a 1-run ball game.
Got Hernandez, who hasn't hit a lick, and then the pitcher spot. So I'm going to get this run in. You're probably going to have to bat for Pedro. Here's Hernandez on deck. Chavez tried to bunt for a hit and got credit for his sacrifices last time. The Braves look for the bunt, but he's set to swing away, and he takes high.
Well, you always want to put the little doubt in the defense's mind. Whenever I played first and I played aggressively in on a bunt and someone didn't turn around in a bunt situation and actually took a swing at it or did not square, I had to be a little more careful, maybe back off a bit.
Whoa, you got to stay back here.
Bunt not on the first 2 pitches, and James falls behind the left-hand hitter 2-0.
Put a hit and run on here. I don't know. Endy Chavez has not been around long enough to know if he's a hit and run guy, but it's certainly 2-0 was a good pitch to hit. Try to make something happen.
And now it's 3-0. So James making it difficult for himself here.
Well, I know what sign he'll have now is James just trying to throw a strike. The same pitch he used when he was ahead of Delgado to strike him out. Doesn't work when it's 2-0.
But Chavez will take one here, and it's 3-1.
Well, you send Nady here, 3-1. I'd send him. Make it happen. Stay out of 2.
It's 3-1 to Chavez, not going, pops it up, foul ground, and it'll blow back into the crowd as McCann gives it a look. 3-2.
And I think probably Willie's thinking there is that Chavez is not a guy that plays every day, is a platoon player, doesn't face a left-hander on a regular basis.
Well, the other thing is Chavez, a speedy left-hand batter, isn't going to grind into a whole lot of double plays.
That's that Cardinal in me, though. Those are hit-and-run clubs I played on.
Now let's see if he runs 3 and 2. And James will check in on Nady.
I don't think he's going to run him 3 and 2. I think that it's just Chavez. Not that many at bats against left-handers.
And no choice for Willie here to pinch hit for him. He's out of outfielder. Nady not going, and Chavez fouls it off. If you just joined us, Carlos Beltran not in the lineup for the second straight day because of a tight hamstring. Cliff Floyd left the game in the 5th inning because of a strained ribcage muscle, and the Mets sent Victor Diaz to Norfolk today to make room for a 12th pitcher, Pedro Feliciano. So you got Jose Valentin and Endy Chavez in the outfield, and Chavez hits one the other way. Langerhans retreats, and that's the first out. Back to first goes Nady. So 1 out and 1 on. And I have to tell you, I'm very surprised that he did not bunt with Chavez, but what that means is that Pedro's going to stay in the game.
I agree. I think the lefty-lefty matchup makes me want him to lay a bunt down, get a runner to second,
and hope that Hernandez makes something happen.
Give Hernandez a chance, maybe.
Well, Pedro's out on deck, as you see. Hernandez fouls it off, but Sanchez is still throwing in the bullpen.
Well, he's ready to come in. I think if there's a base hit here, Willie may change his mind. But I think if it's going to be the same situation, and you see Duaner Sanchez warming up, Nady at first, he'll probably stay with Martinez for another inning.
James has yet to show any kind of move to first base.
He's impressed me so far. Fell behind 3-0, came in last inning in a tight spot on the road.
He's a pitcher that they have very high hopes for as a starting pitcher, filling a role in the bullpen now. This is outside with a changeup, 1-1.
One of the things they like about him, though, is his moxie. He goes after the hitters, throws strikes, and when you have a young pitcher that does that, that's really impressive.
Bobby Cox flashing signs from the dugout. And Hernandez lifts one to center. And Andrew Jones, the best outfielder on the planet, makes the catch for the second out. So two-way. And let's see. Pedro's looking back into the dugout, taking off the jacket. And Willie apparently is telling him to go up there and take his hacks.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Willie right here. One more. Give me one more, Pedro.
Pedro with a big smile on his face. I think he's thinking about Grady Little. Pedro's thrown 100 pitches in 6 innings, and he's got a 4-3 lead. And he's going to be asked to at least start the 7th inning. He's 0 for 2 at the plate today.
Now, one thing I don't feel is going to happen here is Nady try to steal the base where Pedro will lead off the next inning. So I wonder why he even threw over there.
He's thrown a few times, but without a whole lot of purpose. Big cut by Pedro. That was his home run swing.
Even he's got to laugh at that.
That one sailed. Watch this ball sail in. Whoa.
He was looking to turn on it.
He's not going to turn on that pitch, I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, he's never hit a home run. And if he's ever going to hit one, this would not be the night. With the wind blowing in from left. Andrew Jones can do that, but probably not Pedro. Now that's interesting. A guy who can't run at all right now is trying to bunt for a hit.
And that's the second time we've seen Pedro try to bunt for a hit this season.
Very clever.
I think he just wants to get back on the mound. On 1-2, James misses high. 2-2. Nady at first with 2 down. He led off with his 3rd hit of the game. Loduca and Nady each with 3 hits tonight among the 9 the Mets have collected. Bobby Cox has had to live through some dreadful pitching performances early in the season, but he's getting a good one here out of the youngster Chuck James. And he strikes out Martinez to end the inning. 2nd strikeout for James. We're through 6 now at Shea. Mets 4, Braves 3.
Matt Yoloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. Brandon Phillips of the Reds doing major damage against the Marlins, driving in a couple of runs. It's 6-0 Cincinnati in the 6th. Back to the guys at Shea Stadium.
Things not going well for the young Marlins. They lost 2 out of 3 to Washington, trailing tonight off to a 3-8 start. A lot of growing pains in Florida. Pedro Martinez taking the mound for the 7th inning. 100 pitches under his belt. 8, 9, and 1 in the order coming up for Atlanta. Wilson Bedimit to lead off. Bedimit has taken a call 3rd strike and drawn an intentional walk. Pedro's given up 3 runs and 5 hits. He's walked 2 and struck out 7. Bedimit filling in for the injured Edgar Renteria.
Bedimit, a very underrated player. A lot of people think that he could start for 3rd base or shortstop for a lot of clubs in the big leagues.
And he hits one in the air to right field. Nady is there. 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. And now the veteran Brian Jordan will bat for Chuck James, who did a great job in relief for the Braves to keep them within a run. Jordan now a part-time player in Atlanta. In his 2nd tour of duty with the Braves, he returned to them last year.
Earlier, Gary, you were talking about Raul Mondesi was supposed to play a big role with the team last year. So was Jordan, but he didn't either. That's why they had to bring up Kelly Johnson and Ryan Langerhans.
I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead. Lance Cormier, you saw there warming up in the bullpen. He'll be coming in, the right-hander for Atlanta.
2-0 now to Jordan. Brian Jordan at one time was the heart of this Atlanta team. 99, 2000, 01. Just a really hard-nosed player. Former NFL star. 2-1 to Jordan. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, Chris Cotter with you from Shea Stadium in New York. We're in the top of the 7th inning. Mets and Braves meeting for the first time this season. Mets and Pedro up 4-3 in the 7th. And Pedro misses outside to Jordan, and now he's behind 3-1.
And that didn't miss by much.
Well, I think with the, you see, just off the corner, with the wind blowing in the way it is, in this situation, you want to maybe throw the ball in the outer part, see if Jordan to hit to the big part of the Shea Stadium.
3-1 to Jordan. He fouls that one back. And a full count to Jordan. Brian Jordan's now 39 years old. Had a lot of injuries over the last few years. Had more injuries playing baseball than he ever had playing football. Now the big crowd rising here at Shea. Pedro has 7 strikeouts on the night. 3-2 to Jordan. Fouled away.
Well, this is a good spot for Jordan here and Bobby Cox and the Braves. A power hitter. And Jordan, you're down a run and you're pinch hitting for your pitcher. One swing or one mistake, this ball game's tied.
That's bullpen is busy in case Pedro needs help. Trying to get through Jordan here with 1 out in the 7th. 3-2 on the way. Struck him out. 8 strikeouts for Pedro Martinez, and that at 90 miles an hour, maybe the hardest pitch he's thrown all night.
Well, that's the amazing thing about Martinez is that when he needs to add a couple miles an hour in a fastball in a key situation, he can go to the reserve tank, and here he did with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. And the key was that it was up and in, kind of jammed Brian Jordan, who prefers the ball out over the plate.
They're chanting Pedro here at Shea. Here's Pete Orr with 2 out. Line past the originator, and he knocks Pedro right down to the mound. And Orr aboard. And Pedro was fortunate to get out of the way of that.
Well, that was a bullet. You can hang some laundry on this. That is a smoke job. Holy cow, I almost got him.
Pedro's thinking, I didn't sign up for hazard pay. And that's going to be all for Pedro Martinez as Willie Randolph makes his way out to the mound. Pedro pointing upstairs, happy that he got out of the way of that Pete Orr line drive, and now getting some love from the crowd here at Shea. He'll exit as the compadres and his compadres all appreciate what Pedro did tonight. Now the bullpen will try and make it stand up as Duaner Sanchez makes his way in, and Pedro Martinez will exit with a chance for his 200th career victory tonight here at Shea. Duaner Sanchez on to pitch here in the 7th inning in relief of Pedro Martinez, and Sanchez has been nothing short of spectacular over his first 5 outings as a Met. Marcus Giles the batter with a tying run at first. 1-1 to Giles.
Duaner Sanchez shows you just enough fastballs to keep you honest, but he wants to get you out with his breaking ball if you're a right-handed hitter, with his changeup if you're a left-handed hitter.
He's had a couple of days off after a long outing on Friday night. Pitched 2 innings in that game Friday against the Brewers and threw 45 pitches, and Willie Randolph wanted to get him 2 days off, and he was able to, in part because of the efforts yesterday of Aaron Heilman. There goes Orr, swing and a miss. Loduca's throw not in time. Pete Orr with his first stolen base of the year, and now the tying run in scoring position.
Well, you see Giles right there trying to go the other way, and Orr just got a great jump here. There he goes, showing good speed, looking behind him to see where the ball was. Throw's not bad, right on the bag. He would have beat it anyway, no matter what.
Sanchez ahead of the count on Giles, 1-2. Tying run at second, 2 down. Just missed with the fastball, 2-2.
Didn't miss by much. My goodness.
Maybe a little high.
They don't call that high strike.
You want to miss, though. You got to miss down with Giles. Good high ball hitter.
On 2-2, Giles ignores outside, 3-2. First base is open. You've got the left-hand hitting Ryan Langerhans on deck. 4-3 New York, 7th inning. Sanchez trying to keep Pedro in the lead and keep that 200th victory chance intact. Just got the end of the bat on it, 3-2. Sanchez, the former Dodger, trying to keep the lead for Pedro. 3-2 to Giles. Struck him out. Duaner Sanchez strikes out Marcus Giles and keeps the Mets in the lead. Pedro applauds. 4-3 New York. We go to the bottom of the 7th here at Shea. Fans came to the ballpark tonight hoping to see Pedro Martinez's 200th career win. That chance still intact. Meanwhile, Albert Pujols keeps rolling in Pittsburgh. A 2-run homer, his 9th. As we check out the Toyota National League scoreboard, Adam Dunn hit his 8th for the Reds, and they're up 8-0 on the Marlins. Meanwhile, San Diego leading Colorado on Josh Barfield's first major league home run. It's Jesse's kid playing second base for the Padres. Lance Cormier on to pitch for the Braves. Picked him up from Arizona in the trade that sent Johnny Estrada to the D-backs. And he gets ahead on Reyes, 0-2.
They also got Oscar Villarreal in that trade, who is 4-0 for this ball club in relief.
Bounce to first, and an easy play for LaRoche, one away. So Reyes 0 for 3 and a walk tonight. 1 out and nobody on. Mets were down in this game 1-0 and 2-1. Then Paul Lo Duca doubled in the third. Carlos Delgado followed with a 2-run homer, and the Mets have been in front ever since. But they were shut down for 2 innings by Chuck James, who came on with a couple of men on in the 5th, got through that inning, pitched a good 6th as well to keep the Braves in the game. And James gets all the credit for keeping Atlanta in this one, as Lo Duca, who's 3 for 3, fouls one off.
It's just hard to imagine that the Atlanta Brave pitching staff is last in the National League with an ERA close to 6, team ERA, and only 1 win from one of their starters, and that was the shutout by Smoltz in game 13, or I'm sorry, game 11.
And Lo Duca goes the other way, but Giles runs this one down, and Lo Duca retired for the first time tonight. So 2 out and nobody on. Carlos Delgado coming up. Join us on Saturday, April 29th at Shea Stadium for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life event presented by the New York Hospital of Queens. Help us find a cure. For more information, call 1-800-ACS-2345 or visit cancer.org. Carlos Beltran hoping to play tomorrow. He lifted some weights, rode the bike today, but didn't feel fit to play, as Cormier's good changeup has Delgado out in front 0-1.
You know, Keith, to further your point, it's because the Braves have always been defined by their starting pitching, but Hudson's got off to a slow start. Mike Hampton is out.
Ramirez is out. Horacio.
1-1 to Delgado.
Hudson's 0-1 with a 9.20 ERA in 3 starts. There's Roger McDowell, the pitching coach. Kyle Davies, who I think has terrific stuff. He's off to a terrible start.
You saw Roger on the other end of the bench, as far away from Bobby Cox as you can. Remember, Leo Mazzoni used to always sit in Bobby's hip pocket. Oh, he moved over. He moved over.
They're getting closer now, but he doesn't rock as much as Leo did.
Not a lot to say when your team ERA is around 6.
2-2 to Delgado. Carlos hit his 5th home run of the year back in the 3rd inning. Off the bottom panel of the scoreboard in right field. David Wright on deck. But the Mets have been stymied by the Atlanta bullpen so far. They've retired 8 of the 9 hitters they've faced. Three and 2 to Delgado.
Cormier's got some pretty good stuff, Ron. He got a nice little breaking ball.
He does. He likes to pitch too. He appeared in 67 games last year. He won 7 games for the Diamondbacks, but had a high ERA, 5.11. That's very high for a relief pitcher.
86 hits in 79 innings last year. On 3 and 2, he throws a breaking ball and misses, ball 4. So a 2-out walk to Delgado. And here comes David Wright. And so far, this is the roughest night David's had at the plate this season. Came up in the 1st inning, 1st and 3rd and 1 out, bounced into a double play, flied out in the 3rd, and then came up with 2 men on in the 5th and bounced into what could have been another double play and was a fielder's choice.
That 1st inning double play, though, that was a nice at bat. He hit a rocket. Just hit him right at him.
Atom ball. That's it.
Lifts this one to right field, and Frank Corr toward the line. And that retires the side. So Lance Cormier pitches a hitless bottom of the 7th. We move to the 8th. Still 4-3 New York.
Matt Yaloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. Miguel Tejada taking Jeff Weaver deep and gone. The Orioles up on the Angels 4-2. Back to Gary and the guys at Shea.
All right, thanks, Matt. We go to the 8th inning here. Duaner Sanchez, who got the final out in the 7th inning, striking out Marcus Giles to strand the tying run in scoring position. Will try and bridge it to Billy Wagner in the 9th. Mets with a 4-3 lead as Ryan Langerhans leads off. Langerhans 2 out of 3, and Nady made a diving catch to keep him from being 3 for 3.
There is that Sanchez changeup. Great sinking action on his change.
Langerhans taps one and near the plate. Foul ball. 0-2. Sanchez loves to use that changeup against the lefties.
Well, he's got a good one. Like I said, he showed just enough fastballs to keep you honest. Tries to throw one for a strike at bat and then pitch around the strike zone. See how closed he is there? One of the reasons pitchers do that is because early in their career they have trouble with that front shoulder flying open. So that way you close yourself up. That keeps that shoulder closed.
Well, he never went away from the changeup, and he strikes out Langerhans for the first out.
Well, nice pitch by Duaner Sanchez. He's got such a good one that he can throw it over and over, because not only is it a change of speed, but the bottom drops out of it. It's got great movement.
So 1 out and nobody on, and here's Andrew Jones, who crushed one his last time up against Pedro. Against the wind, hit it over the bleachers in left field for his 5th home run of the year. 1-0 to Andrew, and that was the swing and the sound.
That's almost a swing that reminds me of the toy cannon Jimmy Wynn, a big power swing from a right-hand hitter.
Talk about a guy who could hit home runs in difficult conditions. Jimmy Wynn hit him in the Astrodome where the ball didn't fly at all. 1-1 to Andrew, who's driven in 2 runs tonight. Hits one in the air to right center. Nady moving back. At the 371 mark, he reels it in. The wind had just enough to take the steam out of that one, and Nady pulled it in for the 2nd out.
Well, he just gets under this ball a little bit, just enough. And Nady, there he is, see his hand check for the wall. Sanchez breathes a sigh of relief.
Had him all the way. Well, Pedro also, that ball goes out of the ballpark, and 200 victories for tonight would fly by the wayside. And strike 1 to Adam LaRoche. LaRoche 0 for 3, and he struck out twice against Pedro, who fanned 8 in 6 2/3 tonight. To 110 pitches. And the slider. And he stops the swing in time. 1-1.
I think you see right now, this is a lineup without Chipper Jones and Edgar Renteria. When these guys come back off the DL, this is going to be a pretty formidable opponent if they can get their pitching straightened out.
They've been scoring a lot of runs. Hit to left. Valentine right there, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Sanchez, who's retired all 4 batters to face him. They go to the bottom of the 8th. The Mets will look for some insurance, leading 4-3 over the Braves. Mets baseball on Sportsnet New York is being brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By Ford, check out the best-selling Ford Explorer at a price that's even better, only at your tri-state quality Ford dealer. And by the all-new 7-passenger Jeep Commander. It's your world. Take command. Billy the Kid getting ready for the 9th inning, and the Mets trying to get him some breathing room. It's 4-3 New York as the Mets come up in the bottom of the 8th against Lance Cormier, and Jose Valentin takes ball 1.
Very good. Billy the Kid, a left-handed gun. You're good.
So's he. Valentin fouls one off. 1-1. Well, Jose Valentin still in search of that elusive first hit of the year, and after a dreadful season, injury plagued and ineffective with the Dodgers last year, you really have to wonder about Valentin. Xavier Nady on deck. He's having a big night. Valentin fouls one off.
It becomes even more difficult to get that hit because you're not playing every day. The at-bats you get a lot of times are against the closers or the very good relievers late in the game for the opposing team.
And with Kaz Matsui due off the disabled list relatively soon,
a switch hitter,
you have to wonder what Valentin's future is going to be here if he doesn't get it going soon.
Maybe he's gotten a reprieve from the governor, though, with Cliff Floyd straining that side.
Good point. And Valentin takes just off the plate 2-2. I thought Cliff had the greatest quote coming into this series. Floyd said, "Until you beat the Braves, you're still going to be chasing them, even if you're ahead of them in the standings." 2-2. And I think that's really the mentality that this team has.
And Keith made the point that when they do get Chipper Jones back, when Renteria comes back from that pulled side muscle, they're going to have a lineup that is going to be very difficult to pitch to. But if they're giving up 6 runs a game, that bodes well for the Mets.
3-2 now to Valentine, leading off in the bottom of the 8th, and the Mets would dearly love to get him on and get a chance to move him around to get an extra run. John Smoltz, who has been here throughout this year, this 14-year run of division titles for the Braves. The other names have changed, at least as far as the players are concerned. Valentine up the middle, Bandimit to his left has it, and he throws him out, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. Xavier Nady coming up. And for the latest on the Mets and the most up-to-date sports news, log on to our website, sny.tv. And there you'll find the Ask the Booth feature. Who's doing the asking today? Oh, it's Kevin from California. Heath and Ron, what's your most memorable moment from that glorious year of 1986?
Oh, gosh.
I'll start with mine. On the 4th game of the World Series in Boston, I am from Boston. So I was nervous as all could be. I was in the bullpen before the game, bouncing balls all over the bullpen. Could not throw a strike. So I decided to cut it.
Nady fouls one off, 1-1.
I decided to stop and walk into the dugout, which is all the way across the field. And as I was walking across the field, my father, who was in the Air Force Reserve, was holding the American flag for the national anthem. So I kind of saddled up next to him, put my arm in his arm. He taught me how to play baseball. And I walked across that field on cloud 9, ready to pitch, and ended up being able to shut him out for 7 innings.
Sounds like your Jim Craig moment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
That's a great. Ron told me that story more than a few years ago. To me, that's one of the best stories baseball stories I ever heard. I think Game 6 in Houston was my best moment in '86 because we lose that game. We got Mike Scott. We may not get to the World Series. That was the most exciting game I ever played in.
2-2 to Nady, and there's one of your fans.
I still haven't lost it.
On 2-2, Nady hits one to second. And Giles throws him out, and Nady retired for the first time tonight. So 2 out and nobody on. The Braves bullpen has done a tremendous job here tonight. James and Cormier, 3 2/3 innings, no runs, 1 hit, and giving the Braves a chance, at least, to come back in this game.
Well, this has been a game of the bullpens here, the perfect bullpens.
Here's Andy Chavez with 2 out and nobody on. And takes a strike from Cormier.
He likes his little backdoor curveball in the outside corner to left-hand hitters.
You see the Braves bullpen with 5 relief wins, 4 of those for Oscar Villarreal. 1-1.
So these are things when you're a hitter. If you look at Cormier throwing this backdoor breaking ball and kind of in love with it, put that in the back of your head. As a hitter, I always in the dugout watched how they pitched all the left-hand hitters, whether it was a lefty or a righty. Try to get a pattern or a pitch he'd like to go to with runners on base, and go up there and come and kind of sit on it, and hope in hopes of getting it. And actually just playing percentages.
And pitchers do fall into patterns also. They go a specific way of how to get left-handed hitters out.
On 1-2, Chavez just waves at it, and Cormier has his first strikeout, and the Mets are down 1-2-3. We go to the 9th. Billy Wagner will come on to try to save Pedro Martinez's 200th career win. We go to the 9th inning at Shea, 4-3 New York. Time for the AOL game summary. Carlos Delgado gave the Mets the lead with a 2-run homer in the 3rd. Xavier Nady got the first run home with his 4th home run of the year, and Pedro Martinez, in his bid for 200 career wins, went 6 2/3 and struck out 8. Want a better high-speed internet? You belong at AOL. A lot of belief in the ballpark. 13,000 people bought tickets today to watch this game. 36,867 on hand to watch Billy Wagner try and pick up his 4th save as a Met. Jeff Francoeur leads off for the Braves. And Wagner comes inside 1-0.
Also try to save the game for Pedro Martinez and get Pedro's 200th career win.
Pedro would be the 103rd pitcher in Major League history to get to 200, but Frank Court hits one hard, but right at Chavez, and that's the first out. One out and nobody on. And now Matt Diaz is going to bat for Brian McCann to give them a right-handed hitter against Wagner. Of the 102 pitchers who have reached 200 wins, only 3 of them have got their 200th win with fewer losses than Pedro has. Pedro has 84 losses. Lefty Grove had 83. Whitey Ford had 79. And back in the 1800s, Bob Carruthers had 74. Ball 1 to Diaz. Former Kansas City Royal, who made the Braves ball club out of spring training. We saw Wilson Bateman on deck. On the inside corner, Diaz 1-1.
That's a good up and in strike right there, Ronnie.
There isn't any mystery to Billy Wagner. Right-handed hitters, he's going to pitch you tight inside. He'll throw a slider occasionally down under your hands. And if he gets ahead of you, sometimes he'll go up in the strike zone with a fastball.
Well inside. Well, the velocity's still not there consistently. That last one at 95, but Billy, when he's right, is going to be throwing 98 and 99. He's not quite there yet. 2-1 to Diaz. 2-2. That's what we were talking about. Losses at the time of the 200th win. Pedro would have the 4th fewest if he gets it tonight. They're roaring at Shea. It's 2-2 to Matt Diaz with 1 out. Wagner throws him a fastball and a mighty cut by Diaz. He fouls it off.
Well, up the ladder here. Wanted to get it in, but got it out over the middle.
Might have got away with a pitch there. If you want to go upstairs, you got to go about 6 or 8 inches higher than that.
Two and two, and he hits him. Diaz is hit by the slider from Wagner, and the Braves have the tying run on base.
Well, Wagner has had a tough time with his command of his slider, and here it just completely gets away from him.
Well, coming in on this situation is probably harder to control a breaking pitch. It seems like it's dropped 5 degrees and gotten windier in the last 15 to 20 minutes.
So here's Wilson Bateman, who's 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. The tying run now aboard with 1 out. And Bateman takes the slider for a strike.
And that's a good pitch. That's an off-speed breaking ball, Ron, right there. If you're looking for a guy that's coming in throwing hard for a fastball, that's going to throw you off stride.
That's almost a give-me strike because there's no way you can be looking for that.
Wagner stepping off. Diaz is only about a foot off the bag at first base. He's not going anywhere.
And the Mets have the corners covered. David Wright is covered that third base line. No doubles in this situation.
On 0-1, Bateman swings at the slider, so Wagner with back-to-back breaking balls gets ahead on Bateman.
Well, it's a good one. After the one he threw over the middle of the plate, this one he throws down in the strike zone with Bateman swinging over the top of it.
2 pitches low in the zone, up the ladder with a fastball out of the strike zone. Who knows? So many things you can do. Everybody's standing and roaring at Shea. Bateman tied up inside, but he just missed. Wagner did 1-2. Not by much, just missed. Good call by home plate umpire Tim McClellan. It's 1-2 to Bateman. Wagner fires. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a slider. 2 men down.
Well, another good pitch. Just keeps this out of the strike zone. Bateman's the kind of hitter that likes the ball out over the plate. So how do you cancel that out? Throw that down underneath his hands. Well, the Braves are down to their final out. And the pinch hitter will be a guy who hit one of the most famous home runs in the history of this ballpark. Todd Pratt, the former Met, will come up against Wagner. And Pratt has done well against Wagner. 2 hits and 3 career at-bats. Tank coming over after spending the last few years with the Phillies. Now the backup catcher with the Braves. 2 out and a runner at first. 4-3 New York, and Wagner throws over. And it's certainly got to help if you've caught Billy Wagner in the past to know sort of what he does inside his MO as far as getting right-handed hitters out.
They were teammates in Philly the last 2 years. Slider backdoored it, 0-1.
Very interesting that the last 5 pitches, 4 have been sliders from Wagner.
And Billy said the other day he feels right now he has better command of that pitch than his fastball.
You know what that tells me? He doesn't like his fastball today.
On 0-1, Pratt takes the slider. It's 1-1. Well, he hit Diaz in the foot, but he's made some pretty good pitches since. You see Tony Pena Jr. standing on deck to bat for Pete Orr. On 1-1, Pratt bounces one foul, and now the Braves are down to their final strike of the night.
This would be a good time to throw that high fastball out of the strike zone just to change his eye angle. Even if he doesn't swing it, then he can come back with a slider down and in.
36,867 on their feet. Diaz back easily. The wind gusting in. 1-2 to Pratt. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. LaDuca makes the throw down to first, and the ball game is over. Billy Wagner strikes out Todd Pratt to end it, to save Pedro Martinez's 200th career victory. The Mets take the first game of the year with the Atlanta Braves to go to 10-2 for the first time ever, and they become the first major league team ever to take a 5-game lead in their division after only 12 games of the season.
Well, a great pitching performance by Pedro here. Congratulations to Pedro. Absolutely. Number 200. That's rarefied air right there.
Pedro's only the second Mets pitcher ever to reach 200 victories in a Mets uniform. Oral Hershiser's the only other Met ever to notch a 200th win while wearing a Mets uniform. Wagner finishes it off for him, and the Mets draw first blood against the Braves in 2006.
Well, it's interesting to see how Pedro went through that lineup, but even more interesting, saw Duano Sanchez again doing the job setting up Billy Wagner, who now is employing that slider much more in his repertoire as he has pitched for the Mets. Good slider here, Todd Pratt. Todd Pratt's one of those hitters, I believe, that guesses a lot sometimes and guesses fastball, and Wagner threw the slider to him.
And Willie Randolph looking on as his team has now won 10 of their first 12 games. The Mets are doing things in their 45th season that they've never done before. They go to 10-2 on the year, and now have a 5-game lead in the National League East as Pedro Martinez notches career victory number 200. Nady and Delgado hit the home runs, and that was enough offense for the Mets on this night as they came from behind twice and they win it. Once again, our final score, the Mets 4 and the Braves 3. Join us for our next Mets broadcast tomorrow at 7 o'clock as the Mets again meet the Braves. Coming up next is Nissan Postgame Live. Now for Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez, I'm Gary Cohen. Let's go to Kenny Choi in our Sportsnet New York studios for a look at what's coming up tonight on Sports Night.